for the schedule for this week, turn in your notebook, which if if you've done the do now, the notes and all that good stuff, then you should be good. I'll be checking for that. But the big assessment we're having is a concussion final assessment, which we'll talk about in a bit. Our slide 34, our objective for today and tomorrow is physicists will connect Newton's laws of motion to concussions by conducting a final assessment. Okay, a final assessment. So we're going to use our understanding of Newton's laws of motion to address this medical phenomenon of concussions. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit more detail of what a concussion is. There are 3 different images, 2 images and 1 GIF animated picture. I want you to use this information to answer this question. What do you know about concussions so far? And then also highlight all that apply. Which law or laws of motion may be present during a concussion? And whichever one you highlight, whether it's 1, 2, or all of them, I want you to explain why you chose that specific law of motion. If you forgot what the laws of motions are, you can scroll to the right, and on the top right, there is, in highlighted in yellow, there is the laws of motion in there, okay? So let's spend 5 minutes answering the do now. So we know that concussion is caused from literally just a big hit to the head, and the brain is literally moving back and forth. So we got our responses for the different highlight all applies. We got some from the first law. We got some people saying the second law. We got some people saying the third law. We saw some people saying just 2 of them, the second, third. We have people saying the first and the third. So there are different options that we could different responses. So let's take a look. Let's start with the first law of motion. It seems like the most common one for the first law of motion is this response. So Anke Martinez, I really like your response a lot. I'm going to use yours. You put for the first law of motion, you put it is the first law because I seem to have lost it. Because the object you hit yourself against is causing your brain to move. So I put an imbalance force. So basically, yes, the first law is because the object you hit yourself against, it actually causes your brain to move. So what's the first law of motion? An object will stay at rest unless acted by an unbalanced force. What was the unbalanced force? It was that metal object or whatever you got hit against that caused your brain to go from rest to movement. Let's check out the second law of motion. Seems like scholars such as Lewis, I believe, and I believe it was just you, Lourdes. We're slide 35. Oh, and also, actually, I think that's it. And then Siri, you also mentioned the second one as well. And the second law, from the responses I'm getting, the second law was that the harder you hit, the harder, so the harder, or the more force your head gets hit, the faster your brain will move. So the more force equals faster speed. Okay, of course. So it seems assumption is force equals mass acceleration. Pretty standard. The more the harder you hit something, the more it's gonna move, right? The faster it's gonna go. So the more force you put on the head, the much quicker the brain will move, which is a very bad thing, very bad thing. The third motion was the most common one. A lot of you guys really put on, and the most common one for the third law of motion was when your head gets hit, the brain goes the opposite way with the same force. There you go. So Newton's law, third law of motion, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Your head gets hit, the brain goes the opposite way with the same amount of force. Remember, force kind of like energy, it can create and destroy, it can be transferred. So you're transferring all that energy of the head to your brain. So the cases you make all three motion are present during concussion. So I'm about to show you your last assessment. So what your final assessment, your final will be basically. As you can see today, well, I'm going to explain it, but tomorrow we'll spend most of the class period you working on it. So you don't have to do as much during your asynchronous time. Now, this is what I'm testing you on. You're going to test your understanding of Newton's laws of motion by conducting a final assessment through the use of concussions. And there are different parts to this assessment. As you can see, this table breaks down the parts. Here are different parts of the assessment. Here are the point values for each of these assessments. And here on the bottom right is the number of total points for this assessment. So this will give you a good chance to bring that grade up. So make sure you take this very seriously. And like I said, this is worth about 25% of your overall grade. So a quarter of your overall grade, okay? Now, all of this is due in a Google form. If you move the slide to the left, there is a purple sticky note. If you click here, it will take you to that Google form, okay? It will take you to that Google form. So let's go over that, shall we? Here is the layout, but let's actually go over by actually looking at it. So click on that Google form, and it should take you to this front page right here. Okay. The first part is pretty simple. Just give me your name and your class period. So I'm going to put Mr. Castillo, and I'm going to put 8th period. Okay. Click next. And here is one of the sections, one of the first parts, the first part in your assessment. There's different parts to it. Here's your first part. The first part states, I want you to follow the criteria for success. And then I want you to go here. It's a flip grid. And I want you to choose only one law of motion to discuss. So whether it's the first one, the second one, or the third one, I just want you to choose one. So click on this link. And it's going to take you directly to a group flip grid link. Quarter 2 concussion final assessment. So you have to choose one law of motion. You don't have to do all three of them, just choose one. You can choose the first law. You can go where it says view 4 topics, and you can choose the second law. Or if you want to, you can choose the third law. Let's say, for example, I choose the second law. So I'm going to go up here and choose the second law of motion. It says, explain how Newton's second law of motion affects a concussion. And here are the criteria for success in order to get full credit. The video submission, the response should be 30 seconds to 1 minute. You have to mention Newton's second law of motion, or with whichever law of motion you talk about. So whichever one you choose, you have to mention that law of motion. And then explain how the law of motion affects a concussion. Basically, like we did in the do now, I just want you to verbally explain to me how that law of motion affects a concussion. Okay? That is the first section right here. Okay? If you once you record your response and you click submit, go back to the Google form and make sure you just click on whichever law you chose. So I chose the second law, so I'm going to click on the second one, the middle one, and then click next. The second part to this, it is another Flipgrid video. It's one more submission. Now I want you to go here. It's a different Flipgrid, as you can see, and it's titled Reducing Concussions in Accidents. So it says record a video on one way you can reduce the likelihood of concussions in accidents. It could be any accident. It could be a car accident, kind of like we talked about the gizmos simulation from last week with the seatbelt and the airbag with our test dummy. It could be a sports accident, or it can be something as simple as you falling from the stairs, or maybe you falling down on a hard surface. It could be any accident. Your criteria for success is the video, it has to be between 30 seconds and 1 minute, the same thing as the other one. You have to mention what kind of accident you're addressing. So whether it's a car accident, a sports accident, or maybe just falling down kind of accident, you have to mention which accident you're trying to address. Mention one practical way of reducing concussions. So kind of like our simulation from last week with the test dummy and the safety features and the crumple zones. I want you to mention one practical way of reducing concussions in that specific accident. And once you do, I want you to mention how you can test this out. Once you give me the practical way, how can you personally test this out in order to ensure that likelihood of concussions can be reduced? Record your response, submit, go back to the Google form and click on this right here so you can move on ahead. Right here. Okay. Now the next section, the next big section is a rage paragraph. I want you to answer this question in the rage paragraph. The question is, according to the free body diagram below, is a concussion a balanced or unbalanced force? Explain your answer in the rage paragraph. You already know how to read a free body diagram. So I want you, based on this information, I want you to answer in the rage paragraph form. Is a concussion a balanced or unbalanced force? Okay. Use this image to support your answer when you're doing the rage paragraph. Okay. Make sure it's in rage paragraph. Okay. Okay. Type in your answer, and then click next. Here is your next section, and you're almost done. We're almost halfway there. Your next section is using this bar graph from concussion rates in high school sports. So we have football, soccer, basketball, wrestling, baseball, and softball. And I want you to use this information to answer the 5 questions that follow. Now, let me show you really quickly. I'll give you a refresher on bar graphs. You can get concussions through different ways. You can get concussions by contact with another person, which are the ones in black. As you can see, football has most of those injuries because it's a physical sport. There's also, you can get concussion through contact with equipment. Baseball has the highest ones right there. That means they probably got hit by the baseball bat or by the actual baseball. So contact with equipment that causes concussions. And then there's the third one, which is contact with the playing surface. So maybe you fell on the surface and you hit your head against the court. That is in white. So as you can see, basketball seems to be the most popular sport on that one because the surface is so hard. So if you slip and you hit yourself on the head on the basketball courts, it could cause a concussion. As you can see, boys basketball has most of those concussion rates in that sport. There are 5 questions. 4 of them are multiple choice, but one of them is check all that apply. So you have to check all the ones that apply to the question that's asked here. Okay. Once you do that, you can click next, and you have a line graph. Same thing, but instead of sports, it's a military branch. So Army, Navy, Air Force, or Marine Corps. As you can see, they record the amount of concussions throughout the years. As you can see, from 2005 to 2007, the Army increased their concussion rates increased a lot within that 2 or 3 year period. So if you're planning on joining the Army, be very careful. They have a very high concussion rates. Okay. There are two questions. One question is multiple choice, and the other one is just check all that apply. So according to what the question's asking you, just check all that apply. Okay. And the last part is just a student survey. All you have to do is just answer these four short questions. They're all worth 1 point, but the last one is worth 2 points because I want you to give me feedback on ways I can improve quarter 3. What's something you would like for me to try different as we go into quarter 3? I just want to be able to give you guys the best resources and best possible layout and just a way for me to improve as a teacher. Once you answer these questions, you can click submit and you're Gucci and you're good to go. And that is all of it right there. That is all you're doing for this week. That's your one big final assignment. And tomorrow on Tuesday, we'll spend most of the class period working on that assessment. And so if you have any questions, you can ask me right then and there tomorrow, and I can help you along the way. And that's okay. If you have questions, you may have questions tomorrow. But that's all I have for you guys for today. So tomorrow we're gonna do our do now. Tomorrow now, I'm gonna calculate your grade that you have in class so far, and then you're gonna actually gauge how many points you need in order to get C, how many points you need to get a B, and how many points you need to get an A, and how many points you need to get that perfect score. So we're gonna calculate that tomorrow, and the rest of the class time will be spent on you working on the assessment. So there's no homework today. Relax. Tomorrow we'll get straight to work. If you have any questions, you're free to stick around. If not, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.